Hello once again, you beautiful people. Today I'm going to show you how to remove a stuck piece of filament from your extruder in your Bambu Lab P1P, P1S and probably X1 carbon as well. It's not a difficult process. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. Right, so I've disconnected the PTFE tube at the back and I managed to pull the filament through. I've disconnected the fans and the hot end and the little thermistor thing from up here. So now what I'm going to do is just get rid of the screws. There's 3 of them holding the entire gear assembly in place. There we go. What I should mention, because I was stupid and forgot to record it, when you unscrew this filament cutter here, this screw basically just is held in place by the sheet of plastic here. So if you don't take it all the way out, it will start to graze this piece of plastic, and you don't want to ruin your printer. So just be careful and make sure that the screw's far enough out before you bend the filament sensor back, filament cutter back. So now what we can do, this whole gear assembly should just slide out. And what I'm hoping to do is take this apart and figure out why it's not feeding through. I can already see that there's some damage here, so it's probably going to need a little bit of a clean. It's obviously been grazing too much against the filament, so I'm going to take it apart, see what the damage is. First of all, I need to take off this black rear casing. So, kind of wishing I cut that filament down a bit, it's annoying. Now what we should be able to do is just sort of edge this out a bit. So I think that tension spring was the problem, so I've been using silk filament in it, and silk is very easily crushed. I needed to remove the hot end, but I think I'm going to have to. Right, so you can see we have a piece of filament caught in the nozzle right there. So that's going to be a problem. I think I'm going to need to replace this hot end as well. I'll try and heat it up, just see if I can feed it through with something. That's why I've got this caught in here.
Now, what I didn't really capture or comment on at this particular point in time, stop laughing at me. What I didn't really capture or comment on at this particular point in time was the fact that there was a piece of filament near enough wrapped around that cog and it was almost impossible to get out. I tried prying it with an Allen key. I tried prying it with my fingers. I cut my fingers open and it really hurt. But if you haven't got filament wrapped around it, it should be really easy to remove this yellow cog.
I need to go and get some snips. Handy dandy snippers with every other 3D printer apart from Bambu Labs ever. There's that part out. And there we go. Right, so gear extruder has a little bit of dust around it, so I'm just going to clean that off. It's still greased up enough, but there's no harm in putting an extra little bit of grease in there. So you get a fair few little packets of grease with the Bambu Labs. Just going to cut this off and dab a little bit around there. This other part also has a bit of dust on it. Try and scrape some of that off. Don't want to do it too heavy, just to make sure you don't damage the teeth. I'm going to get this part back in. And then this part. going to put the spring back in with the cap, and that goes in that way so the screw pushes it down. Just try and get it over the little ridge, and then just screw it in far enough just so it doesn't move out of place again. Things back together, there we go. Make sure everything fits okay as it should. Gears are working as it should, and I'm going to get these screws back in. Now we're going to get the hot end back on. So I've still got that filament stuck in there. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and stick this back in a printer, heat it up, see if I can feed it through somehow. I've used the Bambu handy app to heat up the hot end to 220 pliers, which should enable me to handle the hot end. I'm just going to use this Allen key to see if I can push this through a little bit. There we go. Look at that. Oozing. I'm going to turn the print back off, let that cool down for a little bit. I'll make the wife a coffee and then restart the video. Right, got myself some caffeine and everything is good. So now what I'm going to do is disconnect this, and I'm going to put the gear assembly back on, and then I'll put the nozzle on. Tension screw. I'm not going to do this all the way in like it was last time. I don't always use silk PLA, but I don't want it too tight and too loose, and honestly I have no idea what's good and what's bad really, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so this is going to go back on. We get the hot end back in. Alright, so now we've got the filament cutter sensor that needs to go back in up here. Now I'm going to load this filament. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to home everything and just feed some filament through. Some bogies there on the end of the nozzle, so I'm just going to wipe it with whatever brush this is, wire, brass, something. Right, I seem to get this every now and again where it will not home. It will not home the Z-axis even. circuit that I have to do. Oh, there we go. Doing something now. Usually what I have to do is load and unload filament, and it wiggles itself and it's fine. Not like something, does it? I think it's figured itself out. So now, I'm just going to drop this Z-axis down a little bit so I can see it coming out. And then I'm going to feed some filament through the extruder a few times. I can see that it is blobbing out quite nicely. So I am very happy with that, and I believe job well done.